On the night of March 31st, 2026, the US dropped 40 tons of bombs on Iran's most fortified underground nuclear complex. And this time, it wasn't just the tunnel entrances and exits that were hit. It went deeper. The targets were a stockpile of 540 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium and the missile production lines stored inside. The night of March 31st, Iran's underground fortress in Isfahan was shaken by massive fireballs and mushroom clouds rising from the depths of the ground. But here's what most people don't understand about what happened that night. Why it took 4 separate waves of strikes to get here. What weapon finally reached that deep? And why, despite all of that, the US still hasn't solved the one problem that matters most. Isfahan is not just Iran's third largest city with a population of 2.3 million. It is the heart of Iran's entire nuclear and missile program. According to CSIS, Isfahan is not a single facility. It is a vast interconnected network. A uranium conversion plant, a fuel production plant, a centrifuge production unit, metal processing facilities, and the Isfahan missile complex. According to the Nuclear Threat Initiative, Iran's largest missile assembly and production site. A significant portion of all this is hidden underground, in tunnels carved directly into the mountain. Inside that tunnel network stretching over 50 kilometers lay tons of ballistic missiles, precision guidance kits, drone engines, and high explosive rocket fuel. And there was something else beneath Isfahan, perhaps the most important thing. According to an analysis by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists published in March 2026, Iran had moved a stockpile of approximately 540 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, enough for 11 nuclear bombs, into those underground tunnels prior to the June 2025 attacks. A satellite image from Airbus Pleiades NEO dated June 9, 2025, shows a truck heading toward the southern tunnel entrance carrying 18 blue containers. Experts determined those containers likely held most or all of Iran's entire enriched uranium stockpile. The IAEA has still not been able to visit the facility. As of March 2026, whether that nuclear material was destroyed remains unknown. 3 massive tunnel entrances carved into a 1,700-meter mountain slope, each lined with thick reinforced concrete, completely buried under earth. Iran had placed its trust in the strength of that mountain. That trust was about to be broken. The story of March 31st didn't begin that night. It began a year earlier, and each wave of strikes went deeper than the last. First wave. As part of Operation Rising Lion in June 2025, the Israeli Air Force struck the Isfahan Nuclear Technology Center. 4 critical structures were damaged or destroyed. But Israel had a fundamental problem. It lacked munitions capable of penetrating deep underground. It could hit the surface. It couldn't reach beneath the mountain. Second wave. On June 22nd, the US stepped in. 7 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers took off from Whiteman Air Force Base, an 18-hour non-stop flight to Iran. They carried the BLU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, the world's most powerful conventional bomb. 14 of them were dropped on Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. At Fordo, 12 bombs were dropped sequentially into 2 ventilation shafts, detonating inside the complex at 300 meters per second. Trump wrote that night, "All planes returning safely, time for peace." But the uranium stockpile could not be located. 9 months later, the IAEA still didn't know where it was. Third wave. When Operation Epic Fury began on February 28, 2026, Isfahan was hit from the very first night. The airbase, the IRGC headquarters, the Natanz entrance buildings, a secret underground nuclear weapons facility, even UNESCO World Heritage sites in Isfahan's historic center sustained damage from the intensity of the strikes. Isfahan was being hit nearly every week, but all those strikes were focused on the surface or the entrances. The real target, the munitions depot and uranium stockpile, was still intact beneath the mountain. On the night of March 31st, the 4th wave arrived, and this time, the target was directly underground. The first bomb fell at 10 minutes past midnight. US and Israeli forces began by disabling Iran's Bavar 373 and S-300 air defense radars at Isfahan Airport, blinding the city's defensive eyes completely. With its radar knocked out, B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, F-15E Strike Eagles, and B-1B Lancers slipped into the skies over Isfahan silently and without a trace. According to a U.S. official cited by the Wall Street Journal, the strike involved a high volume of penetrator munitions. Independent analysts studying satellite imagery, explosion videos, and the intensity of the secondary detonations estimated over 40 GBU-31 and BLU munitions were used. Between 36 and 41 tons of pure bunker-busting bombs dropped in a single night. Here is where physics becomes the weapon. Each 2,000-pound bomb did not explode on impact. Instead, the hardened thin steel casing punched through 1.83 meters of reinforced concrete and rock, penetrating deep into the mountain at nearly 300 meters per second. The delayed fuse detonated the explosive payload at the deepest possible point inside the tunnel network. And when a bomb detonates inside a closed underground system, the pressure wave has nowhere to go. That trapped pressure wave then triggered the tons of rocket fuel, ballistic missiles, and explosive materials stored inside. The secondary explosions visible in the videos are the direct result of that chain reaction. The tunnel system itself acted as an amplifier, multiplying the destructive power of each bomb far beyond what it could have achieved in the open air. The mountains didn't just shake, they exploded from within. Red craters riddled the foot of Mount Safa. The uranium enrichment plants, fuel fabrication facilities, Badr Air Base, and all critical surrounding infrastructure were leveled or rendered inoperable. Trump made a statement immediately after. "We now have a country that's not going to be throwing a nuclear weapon at us." That statement implied one thing clearly: Iran's nuclear bomb production capability had ended. Unable to protect its airspace, its underground facilities, or its nuclear assets, Iran responded the only way it still could: asymmetrically. On the same night, the Revolutionary Guard struck the Kuwaiti supertanker Al Salmi with a kamikaze drone, not in the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz, but in the waiting area off the coast of Dubai, an area ships had considered safe. The tanker was carrying 2 million barrels of oil worth over $200 million. Iran's message was deliberate. The waters outside the strait are not safe either, and the global cost of that message is staggering. Brent crude surged past $126 per barrel, the highest in 4 years. US gasoline prices crossed $4 per gallon. The IEA described the Strait of Hormuz closure as the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Goldman Sachs raised its US recession risk to 30%. The Philippines became the first country on Earth to declare a national energy emergency. Analysts warned that if the strait remains closed, oil could reach $200 per barrel. Striking Isfahan was achievable. Opening the Strait of Hormuz is an entirely different problem. The strait is just 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, but every mile of that waterway is defended by mines, kamikaze drones, unmanned surface vessels, and anti-ship missiles fired from hundreds of kilometers of Iranian coastline. A mine-clearing operation alone could take weeks. Every ship that attempts transit during that process becomes a target. Insurance companies have already refused to cover tankers. Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd have suspended all Middle East routes. GBU-57s can blast through mountains. There is no equivalent weapon for clearing a waterway when the enemy has nothing left to lose and everything to gain from keeping it closed. This is the most paradoxical reality of this war. Military victories are being won. Iran's air force is crippled. Its missile infrastructure is destroyed. Its underground nuclear doctrine has been dismantled. The Revolutionary Guards lost the conventional war, but the strategic objective, reopening 30 kilometers of water that supplies 20% of the world's oil, remains out of reach, because the Revolutionary Guards are still waging the asymmetric war, and that asymmetric capability is imposing an increasingly heavy cost on the global economy with every passing day. And then there is the uranium. 540 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, enough for 11 nuclear bombs, moved into those tunnels before the first strike. The IAEA still cannot confirm its fate. Trump's statement suggests confidence it was destroyed. The evidence from the strike suggests the damage was catastrophic. But until inspectors walk into what remains of those tunnels, the most important question of this entire conflict remains unanswered. Creating hell beneath Isfahan was achievable. Opening the Strait of Hormuz and saving the global economy, that is the challenge America does not yet have an answer to. Drop your take in the comments. Did the March 31st strike end Iran's nuclear threat, or just its most visible one? Subscribe to Modern Arsenal so you don't miss the next breakdown.